Aloha! Thank you for joining me for episode 15 of the Sacred Healing Support Series. I am here to tell you about internal family systems today, also known as IFS therapy. Uh, it is created by Charles Schwartz and, or sorry, Richard Schwartz, Dick Schwartz. Um, and it's a brilliant approach to working with trauma, working with parts of us that have been hurt. And so I found out about IFS, about 5 or 6 years ago. My husband is a therapist, so he told me about it and he gave me a book about freedom from your inner critic, which is a really amazing introduction to it and a way to just kind of dabble in on it in it with yourself. Um, I read the book and then just started jumping in and doing some work with myself, and since have done training in IFS with Derek Scott he's the IFS Canada, and I'm also part of the IFS Institute Circle, where I'm learning from Dick Schwartz and some of his partners in that. And it's been amazing. And I've also been, I had many sessions of IFS therapy, which has been extremely beneficial. So I'm very passionate about it. It's not, like any modality is not the heal all, but it's been one of my greater modalities for bringing a great amount of relief of my suffering. So my experience of how it works is, in each of us there are parts that are frozen in time, young parts from childhood who experienced trauma, experienced hurt, were made wrong, were made to believe things, were felt alone, felt scared, uh, and because of what happened, because it being traumatic, because it being a really scary experience, the child self, that part of us at that age, gets frozen in that time. And as my therapist says, in trauma land, gets stuck in trauma land and doesn't grow up. So, in my experience, I don't know if you can relate to this, but if you've ever felt like, I don't relate to grown-ups, I don't understand, I feel like a kid, I don't know how people are like, um, have so much responsibility. I've often felt yeah, I couldn't take care of myself in many ways. I felt like a kid. I just felt like I couldn't grow up. I didn't know how to grow up. Or if you have felt like an extreme response, you may know of it as like triggers, like an extreme emotional response to something or someone that seems not fully related to the present time. It feels bigger, like it's like someone says something and like this huge well of anger, huge well of sadness, or huge well of fear comes up, and it's just overwhelming. And it doesn't fit this current present day situation. Maybe what happened is upsetting, but not to that degree. So what happens is, these younger parts that are frozen in time and are frozen in this experience of being alone, of feeling unsafe, uh, feeling threatened, believing things about themselves like, I don't matter, I'm not important. All those emotions kind of well up and flood the body, flood the current present moment being, and it's not related to present moment, it's from the past. And so in us, in my experience, are these parts that have been hurting. They're like, yeah, they're scared, they're alone, they feel disconnected, they feel abandoned, they feel not important, they have these ideas and beliefs about life, like life isn't safe, I'm not safe, I'm not important, and that aren't true. They were true at that moment in time, But in present day, I am so safe. I am so loved. I am so important. I am incredibly blessed. And yet, there's this part of me, even this morning, I've been doing some work with my 5-year-old who experienced abandonment, a feeling of abandonment because my mom got really sick and she had to go to the hospital. My parents had just split up. So I didn't have either of my parents as a 5-year-old, and my aunt and uncle came to look after me. And they weren't the greatest caretakers. And I just experienced, yeah, I was very confused. Like, why are my parents gone? Why have I been left alone with these people that don't really, they're a bit mean to me. They don't seem to care about me. And I had certain experiences at that time that just left me feeling like, yeah, really hurt, really alone. And like I don't belong, like I don't matter. And just this morning, I woke up with this deep feeling of sadness and this deep pain in my heart. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I connected with this younger part from my adult self. So a big part of IFS therapy, which I love, is that it's self-directed, self-healing. There's capital S self, the self essence, which is wisdom, which is compassionate, like naturally, innately compassionate and wise, and has this capacity to see clearly, has clarity, and has this wisdom of what to do and what to say to heal those younger parts. And sometimes we can do that on our own, and sometimes we need the support of professionals to hold that space, because we can get really flooded and taken over or hijacked by those younger parts because they think that's where we are, and we're still stuck in that trauma land time, and they kind of take over our system. So I took some time to just really talk to and soothe that part, like, sweetheart, I get it, you're hurting, and I just validated all those feelings, and just did some work with that part to help her feel like she wasn't alone. And I really see internal family systems, IFS therapy, as like this great adventure. It's this adventure of going, seeking, and finding these younger parts of us that are trapped, that are stuck in these frozen times in the past, that aren't aware of present day life, that don't know what is real, what is true for us now. They have like limited, extreme feelings and beliefs about themselves, about life, about others that aren't true, that was just based on that one traumatizing experience. And they are really disconnected. In IFS, they're called exiles. They're kind of like shoved away in some like deep recess of our mind, our psyche, our being, our body mind, because they are totally connected, and they're lost. They're very disconnected. And so that perpetuates this illusion, this feeling of separation. And so the great adventure of IFS is we get to go and find those parts and get to know them, see them, help them feel understood, help them feel heard, help them feel loved, and help them to unburden. This is one of the terms in IFS, like an unburdening process of all those icky feelings of that hurt, that pain, that aloneness, that fear. There's an unburdening process that happens so they get freed of that, and to remind them that it wasn't their fault. They're just a little kid. It was the other people that, have a sickness or are lost, or, trauma gets passed down from generation to generation. So, and, in a way it wasn't their fault, but most importantly, it wasn't the fault of that young part. So we remind them of that. So on the way to finding and connecting with these younger parts are these other parts that are called managers and firefighters. that were created to protect those younger parts. They're kind of like the guards at the entrance of this cave or this, you know, dungeon or cell that this little part is stuck in, and they're like protecting them. So they like create these shells, these barriers, these wait this yeah these these barriers between our younger parts and ourselves that we have to kind of navigate and get to know, and help them feel safe and that it's okay. And so it's a whole process. I can't go into the whole thing now, but I want to give you just a taste of it, of the adventure of it. And yeah, we get to know these parts, and all these parts. I don't know if you've also ever had that experience, or where you feel like in conflict with yourself. Like one part of you really wants to do this, and this other part of you has all these reasons why you can't or shouldn't. And so you're at odds within yourself. So these are often two different managers, or a manager and a firefighter, that are like fighting, and because they're like, one part is wanting to protect you and this other part wants you to be free. And so in this great adventure of IFS, we get to find these parts, discover what role they're trying to play, you know, and that to get their positive intent that they are trying to protect us, but in actuality it's working against us. Get them to see that, help them to loosen that role so we can go in and connect with that exile, that hurting younger part, bring them out of that exiled place, that lost, lonely place, unburden them, and update them. We get to bring them into our life and show them around our life. Like, look, I'm 51 years old. I'm an adult. I have this amazing company called Aloha Love Heals, where I get to help people heal to the power of love, and I get to connect with people in really beautiful, loving ways. And I have this amazing husband, and I have this amazing house, and all these friends, and da 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 da. And the younger part is often like big-eyed and like, wow, and it's so cool. And in my experience, some of these parts that I've had to meet are like characters. Like one was like the surfer dude. They aren't necessarily like all the same gender that we are. Some of them don't have a gender. They're all different ages. I have like some like a two-spirited elder shaman inside of me, and Dick Schwartz has written a book called No Bad Parts. And so even though some of these parts are actually wreaking havoc in our life and preventing us from having a good life, preventing us from enjoying life, even causing pain and suffering, even trying to end our life. Like firefighters are the most extreme, and those are like the suicidal parts. It's wild. And so, but they all have a positive intent, and they're all a part of us. And so this journey, this adventure of getting to know these parts brings this reconnection, and it creates, instead of these parts kind of floating out in space, all disconnected, it creates this web of connectivity between the self and these parts. And then these parts that were playing roles that weren't really benefiting us get to transform and take on a new role in a way that is actually beneficial. And we experience a greater sense of wholeness and expansion and greater ease and greater functionality. And it's so amazing. I just love the journey of exploring IFS with myself and with my clients. Yeah, there's a lot. It's really it's in a way it's simple, but there is also some complexity to it, just like we are as humans, right? We're simple and complex, but it's a really beautiful journey of coming more and more into our self essence, which for me is the essence of sacred healing. really honoring that each of us has that innate intelligence within our being to heal ourselves. We have a unique journey. We all have a unique way to come to that greater sense of wholeness and connectivity, fullness, reaching our potential. And IFS is a big part of that for me. Like I said, it's not for everyone. See if it resonates, speaks to you. If you haven't tried it, you can try it out or do some more reading or research about it. Feel free to send any questions you have about it. I would love to hear any experiences you have had with it, or any, yeah, like wonderings, like, yeah, why do I have these different voices in my head that are totally against each other, right? Just know that you're not alone. That's totally natural, totally normal, and there's something you can do about it to bring greater harmony in your system. That is one of the greater intentions of IFS therapy, is to harmonize the system. And for me, it's this experience of, after I did this work this morning, of like this whole tribe within me that is working together to take care of me and take care of all these parts of me, and to allow me, to support me, to have a really great and amazing life and to be the best version of myself. And that's my personal journey of IFS and how it's worked for me. So thanks for tuning in. In the next episode, I'll either share more about my personal journey with it or give you a practice of it. So tune in to episode 16, and have yourself a really blessed day, and I'm wishing you, yeah, blessings on your ongoing journey of sacred healing.